You're doing everything right. You went to school, got a decent job, pay your bills on time, maybe even saving a little each month. And yet, something feels off. Like no matter how hard you work, you never actually get ahead. Like there's an invisible ceiling you keep hitting, but can't see. Most people blame themselves. They think they're just not working hard enough, not smart enough, not disciplined enough. But what if the problem isn't you at all? What if the system you were taught to trust is the very thing quietly holding you back? Because here's what nobody ever told you. The middle class isn't a destination. It's a trap. And the worst part? It was designed to feel comfortable enough that you'd never want to leave. If that hit different, stick around. Because what you're about to hear in the next 12 minutes might be the most important thing you've ever watched. And if you're serious about actually changing your financial life, take a second right now to like this video and subscribe to Mindluent, because we cover the things most people are too afraid to say out loud. Now let's talk about a guy named Marcus. Marcus grew up in a middle-class household in Ohio. His parents both worked steady jobs. They had a nice house, 2 cars, occasional family vacations. From the outside, life looked pretty good. Marcus was told the same thing millions of American kids are told. Study hard, get good grades, find a stable job, work your way up, save for retirement, and eventually, you'll be fine. So that's exactly what he did. He went to a state university, graduated with a business degree, landed a decent corporate job, and by 27, he was making $55,000 a year. Not bad, right? But here's where things get interesting. Marcus was busy. Always busy. Working long hours, trying to get a promotion, paying down student loans, keeping up with rent and a car payment. He was doing everything he was told. And yet every month, money came in and money went out. He wasn't broke, but he wasn't building anything either. He was running on a treadmill, going nowhere. Years passed. He got a few raises, his lifestyle upgraded just enough to absorb every extra dollar. By 35, Marcus was making $72,000 a year and somehow felt more financially stuck than ever. That's not a personal failure. That's a pattern, and it has a name. Economists and behavioral psychologists call it lifestyle inflation. But the deeper trap goes beyond that. It's a complete mindset system that keeps millions of middle-class Americans from ever crossing into real financial freedom. And once you understand how it works, you'll never see money the same way again. Here's the first layer of the trap. You were taught to trade time for money and call it security. Think about that for a second. The entire traditional model of work is built around this idea. You give someone 40 hours of your week. They give you a paycheck. And somewhere in there, you were told this was freedom. But it's not freedom. It's a very structured form of dependency. Because the moment you stop trading your time, the money stops coming. That's not an asset. That's a leash with a nice collar. Now contrast that with how wealthy people actually think. They don't ask, how can I make more money per hour? They ask, how can I build something that makes money whether I'm working or not? That's a completely different question. And it leads to a completely different life. Most people never ask that second question because they were never taught to. The school system wasn't designed to produce wealth builders. It was designed to produce reliable employees. Think about it. You spent 12 years in school and not one class taught you how compound interest works. Not one class taught you what an asset actually is. Not one class explained the difference between income and wealth. But you learned the water cycle 3 separate times. That's not an accident. And this brings us to the second layer of the trap. The middle class is built around consumption, not creation. Look at how middle-class life is structured. You earn money, you spend it on a house, a car, subscriptions, eating out, entertainment. Your income goes toward things that either lose value or disappear entirely. Meanwhile, the wealthy are over here buying assets, real estate that generates rent, businesses that generate profit, investments that compound over time. They're on the buying side of the economy. The middle class is on the spending side. And here's the brutal truth. The entire marketing industry exists to keep you on the spending side. Every ad you see is designed to convert your income into someone else's asset. Now, I want you to drop a comment below. Have you ever felt like no matter how much you make, it never seems like enough? Because if so, you're not alone, and this next part is going to explain exactly why. Let me tell you about a psychological concept called the hedonic treadmill. It's the reason why getting a raise feels incredible for about 3 weeks and then becomes your new normal. It's the reason why buying a new car gives you a rush that fades by spring. Human beings are wired to adapt to new comfort levels almost immediately, and the economy is built on top of that wiring. The moment your income goes up, advertisers, lenders, and lifestyle upgrades are already waiting to absorb every dollar. This isn't weakness. This is biology being exploited at scale. The wealthy know this about themselves, and they protect against it by making financial decisions based on rules, not feelings. They automate investing before the money ever hits their spending account. They define what enough looks like before they make more. They resist the urge to expand their lifestyle every time their income expands. The middle class does the opposite. They feel they've earned a better lifestyle every time they get a raise. And that feeling is exactly what keeps them stuck. But here's the part most people never realize, and this might be the most important thing in this entire video. The trap isn't just financial, it's psychological. It's about identity. See, the middle class doesn't just describe an income bracket, it describes a belief system. A set of invisible rules about what's realistic, what's appropriate, what's safe. Most people in the middle class have been conditioned to believe that wanting more is greedy, that talking about money is tacky, that playing it safe is wise, that dreaming too big is dangerous. These aren't your beliefs. They were installed in you by a culture that needed you to be a reliable worker and a predictable consumer. And until you challenge those beliefs at the root level, no amount of financial tips will actually change your life. Think about Robert Kiyosaki's story. Before he wrote Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he was broke, sleeping in his car at certain points, completely outside the system he'd been raised in. His poor dad, his biological father, was highly educated, worked hard his entire life, and died leaving very little. His rich dad never finished school, built businesses, bought assets, and died wealthy. Same country, same economy, different belief system. Different identity. The difference wasn't intelligence, it wasn't luck. It was the mental model they used to make decisions. And here's where things get real. Changing your financial life doesn't start with a budget app or a side hustle. It starts with an identity shift. You have to stop seeing yourself as someone who earns and spends. You have to start seeing yourself as someone who builds and owns. That shift sounds simple, but it is genuinely one of the hardest things a person can do, because it means rejecting a story you've been told your whole life. It means sitting with discomfort when everyone around you is upgrading their cars and expanding their lifestyles. It means making decisions that look strange to your friends and family. But Marcus eventually made that shift. At 36, something broke open for him. Not dramatically. He read a book. Then another. He started studying how wealthy people actually think. Not just what they do, but how they see the world. He stopped chasing promotions and started asking what he could own. He began investing a fixed percentage of every paycheck before it touched his lifestyle. He bought a small rental property that cash flowed modestly. He started a small online business on the side that generated a few $100s a month at first. Small moves, nothing dramatic, but the direction changed. 5 years later, his income from investments and his side business surpassed his salary. He didn't quit his job in some cinematic moment. He just woke up one day and realized he no longer had to keep it if he didn't want to. That's financial freedom. Not a number, a feeling of choice. And that's available to you too. But only if you stop playing the game you were assigned and start designing your own. Here's what separates people who break out from people who stay stuck. It's not knowledge. Most people reading about personal finance already know the basics. Spend less, invest the difference, buy assets, avoid lifestyle inflation. The information is everywhere. What stops people is the gap between knowing and doing. And that gap is almost always emotional. Fear is the biggest player. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of looking stupid if it doesn't work out. The middle-class mindset protects itself by labeling risk as irresponsibility. But here's the reality. Staying in the trap also carries enormous risk. The risk of spending your entire working life building someone else's dream. The risk of reaching retirement with barely enough. The risk of looking back at 65 and realizing you played it safe your whole life and it still didn't work out. That's the risk nobody talks about. Real risk isn't starting a business or investing in assets. Real risk is betting your entire life on a system that was never designed to make you wealthy. If this video is opening something up for you, share it with someone you care about. Because most people never hear this conversation. They'll spend their whole lives wondering why they can't get ahead, while the answer was sitting right here. So let's bring this home. The middle-class trap is real. It's subtle. It's comfortable enough to keep you in it. It works by convincing you that security is safety, that a paycheck is freedom, that consumption is success. It keeps you trading time for money. It keeps you spending before you save. It keeps you upgrading your lifestyle every time your income grows. And most powerfully, it keeps you believing that this is just how life works, that wanting more is unrealistic, that people like you don't do things like that, but you are not your conditioning. You are not the story you were handed. The very fact that you're watching a video like this means something in you is already reaching for more. The people who break out of the trap don't have superpowers. They just made a decision at some point to start seeing the world differently, to ask different questions, to build instead of just consume, to own instead of just earn, to think long-term when everything around them pushed short-term. That decision is available to you right now. Marcus didn't do it all at once. Nobody does. It starts with one small shift in how you see yourself. Not as an employee waiting for your next raise, but as a builder, an owner. Someone who is quietly, patiently, relentlessly building a life that doesn't need permission from anyone. You have more ability than you've been told. You have more options than you've been shown. And the most dangerous thing you can do is keep living inside a story that was written for you by people who needed you to stay exactly where you are. The trap is real, but so is the way out. And it starts the moment you decide you're done being comfortable with not being free.